I think what's really exciting this year is how even the balance is between private actors and humanitarian actors. I mean, for me, this is becoming like a really big meeting of the minds. But what's also exciting is how the development of new systems are actually challenging a lot of norms in the humanitarian sector because we have new tools to be able to implement, right? So it's challenging narratives around power and representation and who controls the systems that support people in need. So the role of local NGOs and organizations that can be supported by some of the tech players that are here today could change the face of humanitarian assistance to be like more local, but like running on stablecoin rails and using the most advanced technology available to deliver. That's cool. At the pace that technology is developing, I'm not sure that anything that I say is going to be accurate, but I think the stablecoin adoption globally, and this is sort of the role of some of the private players that are here today, like Visa, MasterCard, talking about how much they're investing in using this type of technology in their standard operations, like institutional adoption, is sort of the key that unlocks the types of services that help humanitarian organizations themselves adopt this technology. But based on the data that we have from just running humanitarian pilots with stablecoins, for example, the current funding crisis in the aid sector could be solved by aggressive adoption of this technology because it saves money. It saves up to 60%. You can actually reach more people. So we have like a team that can reach 100,000 more people per $1 million just by using stablecoins. So I think that we could get to a humanitarian future where these tools, if we deliberately place them in the hands of people on the ground and adapt them to those needs, we'll have a more diverse ecosystem, but we'll also have a sector that is less criticized, for being so cost heavy and wasteful. We'll have a humanitarian sector that is more decentralized, more diverse, but still, advanced and evolving according to whatever AI is gonna do within 5 years.
It's just like a totally different area of work, but yeah.
So what we find is like the problems and pain points are very context specific, but we're starting to see a few trends. Adoption is like kind of slow in the humanitarian space. So aggregation also allows you to draw conclusions, and we're still growing adoption, in that way. But what we've noticed is in countries that are fragile, let's say, in countries that have currency instability, in countries that are sanctioned or considered high-risk jurisdictions, in countries where there's no cash. There's just no way to move the cash, or it's too risky to access the cash, like in Haiti, for example. You have a security situation that makes it too dangerous, to access cash. And in each and every one of those types of contexts, those are the hallmarks of humanitarian crisis. And so we're seeing faster adoption in conflict contexts, for example, faster adoption in contexts where the infrastructure is gone, like Haiti, where for them, digital infrastructure makes a lot of sense, because they can't build something and hope that it's still there tomorrow. So I think that's interesting. It's not something everybody realizes. We need to remind ourselves that with this technology, there's this open ecosystem. There are so many. So Mercy Corps Ventures, for example, invests in startups that are in Haiti, in Cameroon, in Senegal, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Sudan, South Sudan in particular. I mean, I think it's very interesting to understand that the sustainable change, like the biggest impact and biggest change, is when we see builders in these countries and these contexts that are building products on this infrastructure and technology that actually we're not even capable of dreaming up here in Berlin or in the States or in London, or wherever, because we're not facing the same problem. So I think the way acute humanitarian problems will be solved using this technology is actually going to contribute both diversity but also really interesting use cases and products to the blockchain ecosystem today that maybe we could learn from, in Europe, for example. Benefits of an on-chain payment. It's made digitally, so it's safe. It is more direct. So humanitarian organizations are responsible for making sure money gets into the hands of the last person who needs it. And now we can do it directly with no intermediaries. So it's less expensive, but it's also a safer channel, for humanitarian assistance itself. It saves on massive costs that are paid to move money into remote contexts, for example, to distribute like cash in envelopes. It can reduce fraud as well, but it can also stabilize the value of humanitarian money in a context, for example, where there's hyperinflation or the currency is eroding the value of the money you're using to help people. A stablecoin can eliminate that problem. And hopefully, assistance can go a little bit further than it does with traditional methods. I think I'm definitely taking home a lot of really great relationships. I've been pleasantly surprised at how much appetite exists, with payment providers like the private sector to explore this space in a constructive way, with humanitarian actors. Also walking away with wondering in my mind, how do we do this more? This is the only event of its type going on right now that brings these actors to the same table to talk about this particular use of technology. So where can we do this elsewhere? Is this a model we can replicate and play a role in sort of like multiplying across the humanitarian ecosystem as well? Because I think everybody's gonna walk away learning something, but we're a very small group in the world. So how do we create more groups like this? We all play a role, right? We're all responsible for our own futures. So let's see.